Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and I'm quite excited to be doing something along the lines of analyzing the best healers in Mythic Plus, the best healers in raids, the best healers in the highest content possible, and basically predicting, maybe putting out some suggestions in terms of how to fix the Mythic Plus and raid meta, because there is one culprit in particular that is kinda above everyone else, and we have to talk about it. Now, this video is not going to be calling for nerfs. This video is looking at the data that's available there from real players, doing real content, and again, I have to emphasize this, really high content. I'm not gonna look at things like plus 15s. I know there is such a thing as community perception even at keys like plus 15s. But you can do a plus 15 with any healer that you want. You can do a plus 20 with any healer, or even higher with any healing class. But there's definitely going to be certain classes that are gonna have like almost like a monopoly, especially if you're looking to pug. And this is mainly looking at pugging and high-end content, and basically organized groups and how they approach Mythic Plus and raiding, and what classes should or could change in patch 9.1. Let's go and get started. So looking at 9.05 data, who is the best healer right now? How has the meta changed from the start of Shadowlands till now? And how has it historically changed in the previous expansions? So we're gonna look at Mythic Plus, and we're gonna look at raiding as well, of course. And we're gonna basically kind of determine my predictions or my suggestions at the end of the video. So this is real player information from rated.io. I'm sure a lot of people know about this. This is not manipulated. This is taking a big sample. So this is at 20 plus. This is looking at high keys. Again, I've been doing a lot of kind of pugging as well. So you can see the balance is actually pretty decent in terms of Shaman and Holy Paladin, and everyone else is kind of dragging behind. This is very interesting because Shaman was never really top Mythic Plus healer for a long time until Shadowlands came about. Story time. When Shadowlands was first released, or basically when any expansion is first released, the first season of Mythic Plus is usually all over the place. People are figuring out the best routes, people are figuring out the best classes, people are figuring out the meta. They're basically working and trying to decide who's going to be good, what are the best skips, how can we succeed with these highest keys in the world. It usually takes around a patch before people realize that, hey, we need healers to output as much damage as possible, and you get this DPS meta happening even with healers and tanks and things like that, because the first patch, figure out stuff. But if we look at Shadowlands, this has come about a lot earlier, maybe because 9.1 is delayed in such an extent that a lot of people right now are looking for that DPS pushing meta. Your healers need to do damage, your tanks need to do damage. You already kind of figured out the best routes. So at the start of Shadowlands, Resto Shamans were probably the most sought after pug or Mythic Plus healers. Resto Shamans had it all if you really think about this. They were ranged, which was a big advantage because Shadowlands was relatively unfriendly towards melee characters. They had an interrupt, the AoE stun. They had, again, really good healing and prideful healing. So Resto Shamans were probably the top Mythic Plus healers at the start of Shadowlands. And then slowly but surely this whole DPS meta for healers creeped in. People kind of started to figure out, in order to time this 22, 23, 24, 25, I need my healer to output as much damage as possible. And every healer dragged behind the Holy Paladin Ashen build. And we're going to talk about Holy Paladin Ashen quite a bit. And in 20 plus keys, again, there's also very interesting information from bench.me. And I think this best explains. So this is kind of like representing the healers when you're looking at the 15s. You can see here the bigger slice, the more healers for that key. You can see the balance is actually relatively good, with the exception of Mistweavers being severely underplayed. Basically, no one is playing Mistweavers in keys compared to a lot of other classes. You can actually see that Resto Shaman slice is getting bigger from 15 to 20s. Because I genuinely feel Resto Shaman can carry these pug groups a lot better than a lot of other healers. But once you get to this 20, 21, 22 keys, and this is, again, a little personal story. I do a lot of pugs. And all of a sudden, if you're trying to pug as Resto Shaman or any other healer, 20, 21s, 22s, they specifically are looking for Holy Paladin, especially Ventier Holy Paladin. And it's a lot harder to get in unless you have an organized group that, you know. And I'm talking about Resto Shaman. Resto Shaman is one of the most popular healers in Mythic Plus at this given point. Can you imagine if you're Resto Druid or a Mistweaver trying to get into these 21, 22 pugs? It's literally almost impossible. So you can see here, Paladin is getting bigger slice of the pie the further or the higher you go, with 21s, 22s, 23s, 24s, 25s, 26s, 27s. And this is the best representation of how Holy Paladin and the DPS healer meta has evolved. You can no longer think of healer as a healer. You have to think of yourself as a support player. You're there to DPS when possible, you're there to heal, and you're there to provide utility spells when needed. You're not just there to heal. And again, keep in mind, this is for high keys in organized environment. In plus 15s, babysitting your pogs and just trying to heal as much as possible, I think is a lot safer than trying to output a couple of hundred DPS and letting other people die because they did something bad. So there's a big difference between viewing yourself as a support class versus a healer because it's based on what key you're doing. Now let's go look at rating situation, and we're going to be looking at HPS. HPS is not a good indication of whether a healer is good or bad. It's honestly, it's there just to it can be used as a trap for new players thinking that the healer is good because they output the most HPS, even though there's going to be numerous damage reduction cooldowns from healers that do not show up on these meters. Also damage. So, first of all, this is the HPS for 75 percentile in Mythic Castle Nathria. You can see here that the HPS balance is actually pretty solid in 75 percentile. You can see Holy Paladin HPS is very comparable to everyone, maybe with the exception of Resto Druid. Resto Druid has become the HPS king recently, and I think that's going to be their meta, and we'll talk about this in 9.1. Or we're going to talk about this at the end of the video. So, generally speaking, Holy Paladin HPS is very solid. Holy Paladins have damage reduction cooldowns that do not show up on healing meters with the use of Devotion Aura and Aura Mastery, a 3-minute cooldown that's going to give you 15% damage reduction 40 yards. Pretty insane. In the same way that the Discipline Priests have Barrier, which is going to give you 25% damage reduction, and in the same way you have to mention that Resto Shaman also has Spirit Link that also has a 10% damage reduction component added to it. These things do not show up on healing meters. So, if they did, they would be higher. So you have to look at Holy Paladin in general consensus in terms of mythic rating. They have good HPS, they have damage reduction cooldowns, and this is the damage logs. Now, damage logs, take them with a grain of salt because this is looking at people who are probably trying to parse in terms of that DPS. But generally speaking, Holy Paladin, especially with Ashen Hollow, are going to be insanely strong. A lot of the top world first skills like Limit added 2 Holy Paladins with Ashen Hollow, because bringing 2 Holy Paladins with Ashen Hollow is like bringing one pure DPS. It is insanely strong, and in some of the world first rating, it was one of the reasons why they were able to kill some of the world first bosses, because healer DPS is really important. In the highest content in the world, you don't almost view yourself as a healer, but as a support class. And Holy Paladin is a prime example of this. So just to summarize very quickly, you can see that there is definitely a strong consensus on Holy Paladin being one of the best, actually the best healer in Mythic rating, and the highest, or one of the most successful healers in the highest Mythic Plus keys in the world. And why Ashen Hollow has become such a big thing. Before we're gonna do that, we're gonna look at some of the Covenant data here. And again, this is from Subcreation right now, looking at some of the most popular Covenants for Holy Paladin. You have to differentiate the Covenant benefits for Holy Paladin. We kind of have achieved that Holy Paladin is the best healer at this given point. Without a doubt, at the highest content, Holy Paladin is the best. There's multiple reasons for it, but they are kind of linked to the Covenant choice. And I think this design choice from Blizzard is really interesting. In top Mythic Plus Covenants, you're gonna have Holy Paladin, and 82% of them are going to be Ventia. It's not only because Ashen Hollow is such a good tool in DPS, but it's also because you need to be Ventia for dungeon-specific buffs for Halls of Atonement and Sanguine Deaths. In Raid Covenants, you'll see that Divine Toll is actually more popular than Ventia. So there's a big divide between Holy Paladin community. And what should happen in 9.1? So let's talk about this. First of all, Holy Paladin. One of the main reasons why it's so good is because they can output comparable HPS, they have damage reduction cooldown that doesn't show up on healing meters, they have the best DPS out of all the healers, and they have no mana issues. The number one thing that I think Blizzard is going to do in 9.1, they're going to nerf Holy Paladin mana. They already did this a while ago, but it just goes against everything Blizzard has initially said about mana consumption. Blizzard's mantra in terms of mana is that no matter what item level you're gonna be, your mana consumption is going to be the same. You don't have Spirit Gear, you don't have MP5 gear. So it makes absolutely zero sense when a Holy Paladin can output the same HPS, insane DPS, damage reduction cooldowns, and be at like 80% mana at the end of the fight, which means that Holy Paladin can also use Intellect Potions throughout the fight in order to boost their damage or HPS. While every other healer, especially Discipline Priest, can only function if they have balanced druids in the raid. Like, you literally cannot play Spirit Shell Discipline Priest at this given point if you don't have 1 or 2 balanced druids, which is insane to me. How can Blizzard overlook the whole concept of healer mana and have a healer who basically has no mana constraints whatsoever? Don't get me wrong, you can absolutely run out of mana as a Holy Paladin in these really long fights, or if you cannot stay in melee and for some reason you have to cast Flash of Light or something. You will have mana issues. But generally speaking, Holy Paladin is a healer that will have the least mana issues in the raid, which means that you can feel very comfortable. You don't have to ask for innovates. You can use intellect potions. You can use, like, there is a lot of freedom to that. On top of the fact that we're still not sure what Season 2 Mythic Plus Affix is going to be, but you have to remember, Prideful gave you a good amount of mana regen in Mythic Plus. So what happens that Prideful is going to disappear? We're going to get a new affix that possibly doesn't give you any mana return. Holy Paladin stock is going to rise even higher because Holy Paladins have least amount of mana issues. They don't have to drink that much. Holy Paladin gets better and better and better. That's probably going to be the number one thing that Blizzard is going to change, in my honest opinion. This is my suggestion, my prediction. Holy Paladin mana has to be nerfed in 9.1. So now we're kind of approaching the main aspect of the video, and that is Ashen Hollow versus Divine Toll. Ashen has been a really controversial topic, especially because very recently Blizzard didn't really release Ashen Hollow specific Covenant Legendary, and they released all the other ones. And the Divine Toll one was insane, but it's probably not going to make it alive. So generally speaking, I think Blizzard knows that people are kind of scared about buffs to Ashen Hollow or something that's going to make Ashen Hollow even stronger. And I think Blizzard is going to take an easy way out. If I'm very, very honest, I think they're going to nerf Ashen Hollow. And I think they're going to just kind of keep Holy Paladins in line of everyone else. They're probably going to nerf their mana. And Holy Paladin is kind of going to be in the pack with all the other healers. Maybe still the top DPS, but you have to remember, my honest suggestion to this is that I actually really enjoy this high risk, high reward playstyle from Ashen Hollow. I'm a big advocate for this. I think that a lot of people are going to be complaining about Ashen Hollow doing too much damage, but at the end of the day, have you tried playing Holy Paladin with Ashen in a puck scenario where people are not popping their cooldowns during Prideful, or you don't have Ashen available? Have you tried playing this high risk, high reward playstyle, which kinda only works in really organized groups? It is legitimately comparable, in my honest opinion, to Shadow Priest during Nighthold, where you had Surrender to Madness. You pop Surrender to Madness, you don't play well, you die, you cannot be rezzed. But if you actually optimize your class, you're going to be top of the meters. And this is what I feel what Ashen Hollow Holy Paladin is. It is a high risk, high reward. Holy Paladin, without Ashen during Pridefuls, is gonna struggle so much. You actually have to tell your fire mages to use Altar Time. You have to ask your balanced druid to go in Hard the Wild, innovate themselves, and provide extra HPS, because you cannot keep up as a Holy Paladin with Ventier if you do not have Ashen Hollow during high Pridefuls. This is a group effort. The group knows that, hey, we decided to bring Holy Paladin with Ventier. This Holy Paladin is gonna do 10-20k DPS bursts every 4 minutes, but we gotta help this guy out on healing. In poke scenarios, it's a disaster. In group situations, it is key to success. Is this type of gameplay something that Blizzard wants to encourage or get rid of? I honestly feel they're gonna take an easy way out and they're gonna get rid of it. In my honest opinion, I think they should actually embrace this and give all the other healers an option to do the same. Maybe provide a covenant that does something similar in terms of, hey, this covenant for this healer is going to be the DPS option. You pick it in order to do DPS, but you're going to be losing throughput. That's not even a correct statement, because at the end of the day, Ashen Hollow can be very comparable in terms of HPS to Divine Toll. It's just that Divine Toll is a 1 minute cooldown versus a 4 minute cooldown that requires a lot of practice. So I genuinely believe that this high risk, high reward type of gameplay would actually be really fun for every healer. And there should be a covenant assigned where you can go that choice, or you can be like, hey, I'm only pugging type of content, I don't need that DPS, I'm just gonna go pure healing. And that's a decision to make up to a player. And I think that would be really cool, and I wanna hear opinions about this. Do I think that's gonna happen in 9.1? Absolutely not. I think they're gonna nerf Ashen Hollow, I think they're gonna nerf Holy Paladin mana consumption, and I think they're gonna be brought back in line with everyone else, and I think the meta is going to be a little bit different. Before the video is going to be way too long, I have to mention why is this also necessary to some extent. Is because look at Prideful. Prideful is a healer. To some extent, you can say Prideful is a healer affix. You need DPS to pop their cooldowns, but you need a high amount of healing to pass Prideful. And even because Prideful is a healer affix right now, you're still looking at healers that give you the most damage. You're still bringing the healers that give you the most damage that might not have, again, the same throughput every 1 minute or so. So can you imagine what's going to happen in Season 2 when they're going to introduce a new affix, and the new affix is going to be nothing to do with healing? So maybe it's something to do with chaining people or something along those lines. This is completely predictions. But let's assume the Season 2 affix is not going to be prideful or healing related. You know what's going to happen? All the top healers who are going to be doing highest content in the world are going to go full DPS. They're going to go DPS legendaries. They're going to go DPS talents. They're going to go DPS trinkets, because all of a sudden there's no healing requirement and I want to provide as much damage as possible. And I think Blizzard kind of sees this to some extent, because if you look at some of the new soulbinds, and this is very, very important, a lot of the new soulbinds that are emerging 9.1, at least one of the soulbind tree is completely dedicated to DPS. So for example, for Kyrian or Weapons of Order for Mistweaver. The last part here is that Weapons of Order releases a blast of overcharged anime at target's location, dealing a specific amount of arcane damage split evenly between all targets, and reduce the cooldown of Weapon of Order. So generally speaking, this is going to be a pure DPS trait that, again, it's going to lower your Weapons of Order cooldown, which also going to increase your healing because it can be used for healing. So you can see that Blizzard is trying to add certain DPS options that healers can make use of as well. I feel healers are gonna go DPS rounds. I'm not saying this specific soulbind is going to be the best, because there's 2 or 3 months left until the patch is going to be released, so everything can change. But generally speaking, my predictions this early on, to summarize the whole video, to summarize the whole concept of healer balance in 9.1, healer balance in 9.05, in terms of everything, is that Holy Paladin in an organized group is insanely powerful. At the same time, the whole Ashen build is high risk, high reward. It's really cool. If you're going into Ashen Hollow in pug situations, you're gonna have a bad time. If you have an organized group, you're gonna do really well. You also have to mention that Holy Paladin is a little bit overpowered in terms of the mana consumption. I think the mana is going to be nerfed. My first kind of prediction is mana constraints for Holy Paladin have to be changed. Is Blizzard going to nerf Ashen Hollow? I honestly think so. Prediction wise, I honestly think they're gonna take the easy way out. Do I wish they do that? Not really. I wish they actually would give or buff other healers and give other healers DPS options as well. But that's probably going to be more work, more balancing than actually nerfing Ashen Hollow. So we'll have to see. Again, I don't know if it's gonna happen. I might be pleasantly surprised. Maybe Blizzard is gonna try and do something else in terms of the balancing. But there definitely needs to be something done about Holy Paladins in 9.1 in organized groups with Ashen Hollow, because right now, if you're pugging Mythic Plus or even doing Mythic raiding, a lot of people really want that Holy Paladin and a lot of people really want that Ashen Hollow. And in terms of other healers, honestly, right now, if you're looking at the raid meters and things like that, I think Resto Druid, I think they're going to keep with the same type of niche for Resto Druids as being the HPS kings. Like if you go to 95 percentiles for Druids right now, you can see that at the highest content, they're doing a lot of healing. And that's really cool to see. Is that going to be big enough to bring them in raids? Maybe if there's a certain HPS spot left on like a rot type of boss, or if it fits the damage patterns, possible. Are they going to be in the, mandatory? I don't think so. I do believe that there's going to be some significant changes happening to Mistweaver. There has been some significant changes happening to Mistweaver in PvP, and I don't think Blizzard is gonna leave a PvE version of Mistweaver Monk just sitting there. Like, look at the representation of Mistweaver Monks in terms of raids, in terms of Mythic Plus. They're the least played healer in everything. No one is playing Mistweaver at this point. I genuinely believe Mistweaver should be overpowered in 9.1. They should overbuff them so people flock to Mistweavers, and there's going to be a better balance. Like, you look at all the data. There's no one playing Mistweavers. No one's inviting, no one's bringing them. They're incomplete. Like, I don't even know what the Mistweaver class Discord is like. Is there like 5 people there or something? I generally don't, like, there needs to be some insane changes. They need to bring Mistweaver population back. It's like they're getting extinct to some extent. So you need to make them overpowered for a patch. People flock to them and then even out the balance. It's like a new class happens during a new expansion. You make it overpowered so people flock to them, DH. Then you even out the balance. But people still might stay for that class because they really enjoyed it. That's what needs to happen to Mistweavers right now. Possibly some big changes. I genuinely believe Mistweaver's HPS is really, really strong, and Fist Weaving playstyle is really, really interesting. You just need, first of all, you need higher DPS portion for Mistweaver. It makes no sense that you have Holy Paladin and Mistweaver, the same kind of niche healer, Fist Weaving, melee healers, and you have a Mistweaver who's doing half the damage of a Holy Paladin, and it doesn't bring a damage reduction cooldown. It makes no sense. The comparison here, there's no comparison here. Holy Paladin is gonna win out every single time. Mistweaver needs to be brought back in line. There needs to be at least, in my opinion, at least at the bare minimum, they need to increase Mistweaver damage by quite a bit and possibly add a new, I don't know, damage reduction or something along those lines in terms of maybe revival adding damage reduction or absorption or something along those lines. And if there's going to be no changes for Mistweaver 9.1, I think it's a riot time type of deal. I think like if there's absolutely zero PvE changes for Mistweaver in 9.1, I would be extremely upset. I would be extremely upset because they need a lot of love. And in terms of other classes, I think they're not going to touch Resto Shaman. I think Resto Shaman is actually in a really good, decent spot. Not overpowered, not the worst. Actually, it's pretty good in a lot of situations. The Utility King, I think they're going to leave Resto Shaman the way it is. I think Holy Priest, they might kind of try and improve their... They seem to be going into that utility route, so they might give Holy Priests more utility. I thought of Holy Priest as a HPS healer for a really long time in terms of Legion, in terms of BFA. They were really strong in terms of pure HPS output, but that doesn't seem to be the thing right now. If you look at the 75 percentile, their HPS is okay. So maybe Blizzard is gonna go into that utility route, and Discipline Priest I think is gonna be... I think Discipline Priest is gonna get some buffs to account for the fact that their Spirit Shell was nerfed, because Discipline Priest has always been a solid raid healer. So this is my, again, extreme predictions. Nothing here is guaranteed, guys. If you go in and say like, hey, MadSkillz said there's 100% gonna be Paladin nerfs, 100% gonna be Paladin buffs, 100% gonna be Mistweaver, nothing is guaranteed here. I'm literally just kind of making my wish list, or if I was a game developer, what would I kind of do? And these are the kind of changes I would try to approach, and the way I would approach the game design. Is that gonna happen? No one knows, but I think it's interesting to talk about the ongoing issues of healer balance in World of Warcraft, because the channel is all about this. And guys, if you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. I really want to hear your comments on this. I really want to hear about what should happen to Ashen Hollow. Should the whole gameplay of high risk, high reward be embraced and every healer should have it, which is kind of my suggestion? Or should Ashen Hollow just be nerfed and the Holy Paladins will be brought back to everyone else type of deal? What would you do?